Chris, at this point, where do you see your team at? The defense has been really, really strong, but how do you get your offense even more involved?
Yeah, I just think as you go through the Big Ten season, you have to continue to improve because the teams you play against are going to keep getting better. And the level of teams you play against, the coaches, the environments, you have to get better in all areas. So I think that's kind of our goal is can we find a way to keep winning but also improving? Can we shore up some of the breakdowns we've had in certain areas, and then can we consistently offensively have a chance to give ourselves a win by scoring enough points? So, I think it's a daily as a coach, you always want better. You're always trying to improve, and how are ways maybe as we go through this conference gauntlet, can we get better in different areas? And that's kind of why, you practice and watch film and things like that, because we know what's ahead of us. I mean, it's not going to get any easier. You're only going to be playing better teams that are going to be fighting for things. And, I mean, look at the conference standings, right? I mean, the parity is amazing, 1 through 14.
What about Nebraska? What do you see if we can match up with them?
It's probably the best Nebraska team that Fred has had. He's done a good job the last couple years, kind of little by little adding pieces. They do a great job with, especially at home. They're 11-1 at home. So that's to go into that building and try to get a win is incredibly difficult. They've beaten Purdue, they've beaten Michigan State, they've beaten Indiana. I think they've always been a really good offensive team, but the last couple years they've really improved defensively. And that's why they're winning more because they've always put points on the board. Now they've added some toughness. They have 2 older transfers, Rick Mass from Bradley, who's been terrific for them as a big guy. Williams has come in and done a great job. And then you have Tominaga, who's as scary probably as anybody you play against because he can fire them in from 30 feet. So we know it's going to be a really tough game and a great tough environment to play in.
Chris, what did you learn about your team in that win over Maryland?
That we have some toughness too. I mean, Maryland's physical. They were coming off their best win at Illinois. What Jameer Young was doing, 30 points and a half or 28 and a half for our guys to just kind of hang in there and continue to kind of play and fight. I mean, it was probably the most physical game we played all year. And I was just proud of our guys' resilience and toughness and kind of will. I mean, even when they took the lead, Young hit an incredible 3 with 30 seconds to go. We came right down, we scored, got a stop, made free throws, and did a lot of winning things in the last minute, where in the Wisconsin game, they kind of did that to us. So it was nice to kind of, be able to learn from that game where we didn't do things in the last couple minutes in Madison, and then kind of make all the plays in the Maryland game. So it was a really good win for us.
Like you're saying, is that the kind of game that you could see yourself building momentum off of, just relishing the opportunity to go on the road here?
Yeah, I hope so. There's going to be so many close games in the conference because all the teams are so even that you got to learn in those last 4 minutes. When the game's back and forth, you get to that last 4 or 5 minutes, you got to be really good at the end of the game. You got to find a way to get some stops. You have to execute. You have to score. You have to manage time, timeouts, all those things. And, I think our guys, there's a confidence to our guys that, they've now won coming off of last year, and now this year with the 13 wins, our guys have won enough where there's a real confidence when we get in those close games. But I always say that the best way to gain confidence and belief is you have to do it. You can't just talk about it in film sessions or in practice. You have to go out there under pressure, and you got to make it happen. And it's not going to be any easier. You go on the road, it's that's a tough place to play. They have a great fan base, and like I said, a really good team this year, so it's going to be a great test for us.
Coach, with Nebraska's ability to shoot from beyond the arc, how much does that limit your ability to maybe double in the low block because leaving the open shooter out there will turn into points for that?
Yeah, I think we have to stay true to kind of what, especially when you have 2-day preparation. I think, we still have to be aggressive in those areas, but we just have to understand with each team, right? What kind of team are you playing? You're playing a team that can really cut and slash, and Maryland was more of an in the paint kind of team, where now you play a team like Nebraska that really fuels itself by a lot of 3-point shots, and I think we're going to have to do a really good job tomorrow defending the 3-point line. So even times when we do send help or come down in the low post, we have to find shooters, and it's got to be a point of emphasis. You see the games where they get over double-digit threes, they're really difficult to beat, and with their spacing and their cutting, it makes them a hard team to defend.
Coach, you talked about playing Keisei Tominaga. You guys have played Tyson Walker, Jameer Young now. Kind of how does he compare to some of those other guards in the conference, and what makes it difficult, especially guarding?
I think his off-ball movement, Tyson's pretty good, but with Jameer and Tyson in particular, those guys have the ball a lot in their hands. With Keisei, his is coming off screens in their 5-out offense, his ability to make reads, to cut with back cuts. He's nonstop movement, and you have to stay really locked into your principles. You have to communicate. He kind of feasts off, when you make a mistake. You get out of a stance for a second, or you get out of position. He's just such a good cutter and mover without the ball. And then his ability to shoot from, he probably has the deepest range. You can't be surprised when he shoots from 30 feet, step back off the dribble. He's got supreme confidence, especially in that building. So every great guard kind of presents different challenges, but I think for him, it's he's probably as good as it is, and good a player we have in the league, and moving without the ball and using screens, and we're going to have to do a good job against him with that.
When you talk about the toughness that you learned from your group, how has Boo contributed to setting that standard?
Yeah, he's the leader. It's, great coaches always say the best teams are led by, the players and the leadership, and just the experience that he has now in his 5th year. Not always has it been easy. He's had to work really hard. He's had to fight through some tough times, some losing seasons, kind of get to the other side of it. And he gives those other guys on our team confidence. It's great when you have someone out there. I think that's what great players do. They make their teammates better. I remember when I was in college, I felt like $1 million when I played with Grant Hill. He makes you, when you have a guy out there that is controlling things and has a positive look and is unselfish, it just makes his teammates better. And he's been great with his leadership. I think that's an area he's really grown over the last year, is how to lead in a proper way with his teammates, and we have really good chemistry and connectivity because of him. I think the best player always sets the tone with that, and I've been proud of him. He's all about winning. When the best guy's all about winning, everybody else kind of falls in line.
Kind of like having a coach on the court too.
For sure. I think you see in his decision making, over the years. Now when you get in tough situations, like he's played in so many games, he's learned how to be successful. He understands kind of how people are playing him and what the game entails, whereas maybe when he was younger, he was talented, but he wasn't thinking about those other things. He was just kind of playing. And now he is thinking like a point guard and running our team like a point guard. And, that's been such a huge thing for us, obviously.
Coach, we asked him after that game against Maryland about his floater. Can you talk a little bit about that as you've seen him progress from freshman into 5th year now, as that shot and how much you trust him with that?
Well,
shot?
absolutely. And, what it does is it puts so much pressure on the big guys at the basket. And, now that you're seeing kind of Matt get his legs underneath him and play a little bit, now it brings some of our lob threat back into play, because everybody knows when Boo gets to that floater, he's so deadly with it. Now those guys start creeping away from the basket a little bit, and that's where you can get some dump off to your big guys. But, it's something, it doesn't happen by accident. That's years of getting in the gym and thousands of shots at game speed, so then when you get in a game, it's like second nature. But his touch on those is really good. It's, to me, you see some of the great guards, I feel like Trae Young, is a guy I could watch, him, obviously Curry, guys like that just have amazing touch with those. Those are not easy shots, but it's obviously something I heard him talk the other day about, learning how to shoot it, playing outside, and those real tough double rims out at the park, and the play you had to make it, you had to have so much touch, if it hit the rim, it wasn't going to go in. So he knows if he can get to his spots and kind of get to that shot, it's going to have a high success rate, and obviously he made a couple of huge ones the other night.
Coach, just one more question.
Yeah.
You said it earlier that this is kind of shaping up to be one of Coach Hoiberg's best teams in Nebraska. What do you think has clicked for them this year?
Well, I just think you obviously when you watch them, they're connected. I think they have really good leadership, older guys that are about the right things, winning players. Their defense is much improved. Like I said, they've always really scored, but in the past, maybe haven't defended and haven't done some of the dirty. They're doing all those things now. They're defending, they're rebounding, they're being physical. and then still with a prolific offense. So I just like the makeup of their team. You know, they have older guys. You know, they have guys, a couple transfers. They've done a great job. 2 guys they got out of the portal have come in and been 2 of their better guys, you know, in Mast and Williams. And then you add you know, what Tominaga brings, Lawrence, who played a lot as a freshman last year. You know, C.J. Wilcher's been tremendous. I mean, he's shooting the ball so well. So I just think they're a well-rounded team. They're confident too. I mean, they've won. I mean, that's a big part. We had to go through that, right? I mean, you can talk about it and you feel like you're ready, but until you actually go out there, I mean, they went to Kansas State, had a big win. They've beaten Purdue. We talked about Michigan State, Indiana. Like they've now gone out and beat really good teams. They finished the year really strong last year, which I think gave them a lot of confidence. And they're really well coached. So, I mean, it's going to be like every other Big Ten game, right? I mean, we know they're real good, and we're going to have to play at a real high level. We're going to have to be physical. We're going to have to be tough. We're going to be locked in and obviously have a lot of poise to play in a tough environment.
And you've got a big game, big rematch against Illinois next week. How are you keeping the team focused on the game ahead of them?
Oh, I think our guys are pretty good and staying in the present. You know, I think we never talk about games past what's in front of you. I mean, I think you can make a big mistake doing that in this conference because of the level of competition. And, you know, I know for me it's funny. You know, obviously you all have family and friends, and you know, they'll be like, oh, I'm coming in on the 27th, or I'm coming in. I'm like, well, who do we play? Like, I know we played Nebraska on Saturday, and I really, because also I'll get physically ill if I see all the teams in a row we're playing as a coach. You get a little knot in your stomach, like, how are we going to win any games with this schedule? So we stay in the present, you know, win or lose. I mean, that's a big thing we talk about. Like, you have a big win like Maryland the other night. We came back yesterday. We talked about it a little bit, showed some teaching clips, and then it was on, like, hey, on to Nebraska. Same thing when you have a really tough loss at Illinois or a really tough, heartbreaking loss at Wisconsin. You come home, you flush it. You got to because you only have a couple days to get ready for another real physical battle. So our guys have been good about that. I think having veterans helps. You know, not looking ahead, staying in the present, and that's the only way you can be successful in this league, in my opinion.
That'll wrap us up with Coach. Thank you.
All right, thanks guys. Good seeing you guys.
Good to see you.